What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. Mr. Ray, what's going on this morning, brother?
Good morning, Wes. I am good. I feel a little bit of cold or flu or something coming on. I know you've been struggling with it for about a week. How are you feeling today?
Good. Oh, actually, hold on. I got to put this other camera on 1 sec. Sorry, dude.
Are we recording?
We are, but
awesome.
Not on my other camera.
All right, I'll take a sip of my decaf. Oh,
sorry, dudes.
One of my little rituals.
Oh, yeah. How was the weekend, bud?
It was good, man. Ran my art gallery out in cottage country. Watched some football. Like I said, I feel this kind of cold or flu or whatever coming on. So I got a ton of sleep. And actually, it's something I wanted to start off with. What are the kind of things you do when you're sick or you feel like sickness coming on to combat it, other than taking medicine, which I'm not sure, I've never found a medicine that really works when it comes to cold and flu. It just kind of comforts you a little bit.
Yeah. So up until last week, I hadn't gotten sick in over a year, I think, which is really rare for me. I used to get sick easily 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a year when I was working in New York. I have not found a way to feel better. Once you're already past 3% in the sickness, which I guess I feel like is really early on, if you get even a slight tickle in your throat, I feel like almost at that point you're done. I feel like it's just, now it's got to run its course. I wish I had some magic bullet, but I don't. And I take a ton of green drinks, just normally at least one green drink a day. But when I get sick, I'll have 2 or 3. And but honestly, I haven't noticed anything that works other than you just let it ride through and you sleep as much as possible.
And follow up. How do you alter your typical schedule when you are sick so as not to prolong the agony?
So normally, I think what you're supposed to do is get your ass to bed right away. This particular time that I got sick, and the doctor thinks I have pneumonia, but I'm getting on the tail end of it. I just blatantly disregarded all of the fundamental things that you would do, right? Properly hydrate yourself, stop working, go to sleep. And here's the other thing I found is that I'm assuming there's a reason that when you go to the hospital, they make you lay down, because you and I, Ray, we don't dig ditches for a living. So I always just thought, I was like, oh, well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal if I'm working in the office or I'm working at the house versus just laying down? I think there's a very big difference. When you're at a certain level of sickness, you just need to get your ass to bed. And I saw Kaizen's raw garlic. Yep. I feel like I've used raw garlic to stave off sickness a ton of times. In this particular case, it did not work. I'm going to bring Rob up here because he pushed me over the edge. And when I got in that cold tub a second time and was not feeling good already. So anyway, I wish I had a magic bullet. Is there anything that you do to help reduce your sickness or in the past?
Yeah, a lot of rest, just don't push yourself to the limit. I know that in the past you have said when you felt sickness coming on and you continued your workout routine, you regretted it, thinking just like with the cold plunges, right? That in retrospect, maybe you shouldn't have pushed your body to the limit in the gym when you were sick.
Yeah, I think there's some counterpoints to this. I think a lot of people, I think even in the Discord today, was saying, oh, get on the
Sweat it
treadmill,
out.
get your heart rate up.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I feel like there's times where I've done that. I also feel like there's times where I've very much regretted doing that, almost like now. And I got pneumonia probably 7 or 8 years ago, and I did that. I was like, all right, I'm just going to fight through this. Like, what's the big deal? And then go to the gym and so on. And then I got literally deathly ill. The doctor was like, you're on the edge here, bud. And because the pneumonia, I believe, was viral. I think I'm saying that, or viral, not bacterial. He's like, there's nothing we could really do except for put you into an emergency room. So I don't know. I'd be real careful. I think the upside of fighting through is maybe you cut your sickness by a certain percentage of the time. I think the downside of fighting through, like literally going to the gym, etc., is that you die. So yeah. Right,
weigh those two options. Yeah, weigh those two options. I almost always pick the non-death option.
Yeah. But I had a really interesting speech I came across on my way over here, and that was by Jordan Peterson. And it was basically something along the lines of like, watch your self-talk. Not only your self-talk to yourself, but actually the words that you are just speaking in your mind that are not exactly positive, either about yourself or others, or just not true. And I'm putting that topic on the table today for us all to analyze, how do we talk to ourselves and how do we talk to other people? And what percentage of that is either not true or exaggerated or just not moving the needle in a positive direction? So, Ray, I'm going to throw it over to you. What is your thought on that, and what comes up for you when I say that?
Well, what comes up for me, great topic. What comes up for me is a few things. I've noticed, like, when I'm acting from my lower self, like and we talked about this with the shaman, I'm like a unnecessary threat detection machine. I'll walk down the street or I'm driving, I'll be like Asian person, black person, gay guy, woman, white guy, like just kind of like labeling everyone and judging everyone, even though I might not realize I'm judging them. So like just being this judgment machine. 100% of those people are not a threat to me. Right. But this, like when I'm acting from my lower self, from my lizard brain, without where I'm just like the caveman in an environment where everything is trying to eat me for lunch. Right. That comes to mind. At a 12-step recovery meeting I was at on maybe Thursday, a guy said, I used to always look for differences instead of similarities, and that to me, that would sound something like I'm better than him because I'm jealous of him because, he succeeded at that, but I wouldn't succeed at that because of the following, right? So like, so that challenged me to look for similarities with my brothers rather than differences. And then at the homily at church on Sunday, it was a very similar message where it was like, if you see difference in the world, like you see a black guy or you see a white guy or you see a woman and you're a man, like don't like the message is like God made them that way. So no need to like analyze, categorize, judge. So with all that, the Thursday recovery meeting where he said, I used to look for differences, but now I look for similarities. That's what comes up. That's what resonates for me the most. It's like, on your team, if you can find the commonalities that will enable you to work together with people rather than being hung up on the differences of work style that will prevent you from working as a team. That's a kind of like an application of that. Look for similarities, not differences mindset.
Kaizen, what are your thoughts on Ray's comments, and what's your position on your own self-talk?
That kind of is like the last part that he's touching on is your RAS, like focusing on what you're going to see more of. So you're in Python, it's reinforcement training, or like for AI, you're reinforcing that belief constantly, which is also like your neural pathway in your brain. So the more that you're like refocusing that, it's like a muscle, whatever that you're working on reinforcing, you're going to get more of. So if your self-talk to yourself is constantly saying shit like, I suck, I'm not good at this, or I'm scared, I'm shy, or like even something where people would say like, I'm bad at math. If you're constantly saying that, you're going to find all these reasons to reinforce that. Sometimes it might be actively, sometimes it's subconsciously, but all that kind of shit will add up and you're just building momentum versus if you like pay attention and you're like, maybe I'm not like perfect, but I'm working on making progress and I'm better than I was yesterday, and use that kind of to guide how your thoughts, actions, and behavior are in alignment. Because if one's off, then it's going to start like fucking up the machine.
Yeah. Corey, let me throw the ball over to you. Your self-talk and any perspective on what the guys just said.
I love what he just said in terms of kind of like reinforcement training. I really do believe like positivity, right, is really critical to any kind of self-talk. It I think, and also just understanding, what is realistic, what is in your control, what is not in your control, and just being completely honest with yourself. I think that's what helps me, especially like if I'm going for something a little bit bigger, that a couple of variables are outside of my control. You try to control what you can, and everything else can kind of happen simultaneously. And then in that context, also, speak positively to yourself, try to propel yourself to opening up and working harder and trusting the process, essentially. That's kind of what I like to do personally.
Well, what do you say to somebody who says, well, if you're accurate with yourself and it's not positive, what is your response there? I mean, I'm 400 pounds is the reality, do you focus on the trajectory or the ambition versus the reality? What does that look like?
No, I think you need to be honest with yourself, and I think it takes a certain level of individual to say, okay, hey, in your example, Wes, hey, I am overweight, I am unhealthy right now. What are the steps within my control to help? Right, I can't lose 100 pounds tomorrow, but maybe I can, start with a few things in my diet, maybe get rid of, excess sugar or something like that. You start small. It's an incremental process in order to build momentum or progression, right? You don't need to boil the ocean. And I think that's the difference between sometimes success and failure is thinking that there's a monumental task can be overwhelming and exhibit some kind of anxiety. If you focus on little tiny goals, little things to just fix here and there that are within your control, I think that end goal is way more feasible when you have a lot less to accomplish, right? And so start small, understand that there are going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be times where you slip up and you have a candy bar or fast food or something like that. It's not the end of the world. Like you need to understand that you're human, you make mistakes. And, there are things that you can always fix. And I think just being realistic about it is really critical.
Word. And Wes, like, just to riff off that awesome discussion from Corey, it's like, I know that you and Charlie Mungers and other have this mantra that it's our duty to be as rational as possible, right? And but that doesn't mean if you're 400 pounds, like, so we're not advocating that you say, oh, it's okay, I'm beautiful, big is beautiful, hashtag big is beautiful, right? What I would say is like there are healthy and unhealthy forms of self-talk in that situation. Like unhealthy. I am the same weight as a baby elephant, so I'm going to go to the zoo and eat out of a bucket because that's all I deserve. Unhealthy. Healthy. If I want to be around for my family, I need to make changes. I don't want to be this way anymore. What can I, like Corey said, what can I do? So both are like, so you can be positive and be optimistic, or like in a quote unquote negative situation, you can still observe your duty to be rational, and not like just beat yourself up. And I was wondering, Kaizen, can you give me another like example of like healthy and unhealthy self-talk in a like DEFCON 4 situation, like you weigh 400 pounds?
Actually, and Kaizen, can I pause you for 1 second? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Just for all the new dudes on here, if anybody has a super pressing thing they want to bring up as a topic or come on board, shoot it in the chat and we'll bring you up. Sorry, Kaizen, so sorry, but go ahead.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, like a shout out when he was in the Discord. Kind of tying in what Ray is alluding to is every one of these things can be kind of summarized into like action. There's always an action that has to be done. It's not thinking. It's not like, okay, say you're 400 pounds. All right, if you're 400 pounds and you're just sitting there like, I'm 400 pounds, you're rubbing your nipples and not actually doing anything, but beating yourself off and, I'm wallowing in this negative emotion. Or you do.
You know Ray so well. It's unbelievable.
Which maybe it's just moving your arms around, like doing body weight exercises. There's like a dude on a bunch of the newer Tony Robbins talks that he's doing. I think he was on Theo Vaughn's podcast. He was talking about they had some big obese person that had just happened to watch one of their videos and they were inspired and started just in bed moving their arms, whereas before they weren't able to like even get out of bed. But it just progressively turned into this guy losing like a bunch of weight over time. But it's all action. It's not sitting there theorizing, okay, I'm 400 pounds, how do I become 180, 190? Like, no, you still have to actually fucking do something. Like,
What to Jordan Peterson's point, what percent of what all of you say is bullshit? He found out that 95% of what he was saying, he said, was dead wood. Is either some sort of fabrication or overly negative or something like that. Corey, I'll throw the ball over to you. What percent of language that you use either to yourself or others do you think could be tightened up either accurately or more positively?
That's a good question.
It's almost as if it's a human instinct to blow smoke up our own ass, right, Corey? Like it's
exactly.
like I don't think you need to feel guilty if you're about to announce something in the high 90s.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel guilty regardless. I'm just trying to think of what, when you actually have to critically think about like what level of bullshit are you actually spewing. And I think I don't know. I think it's sometimes fake it till you make it, to be honest. I think maybe on a conscious level, it's bullshit, but it's placebo effect, right? Telling yourself like, hey, I can accomplish this. Like the human body is incredible, mind and everything like that. The level of stresses you can push yourself to its potential. So I could very well say, 100% bullshit until it's done, right? Like at the end of the day, it's results, right? So I'm gonna go with 100%.
So that's a good point.
I think you need to it's too Jordan Peterson probably spoke for an hour on this subject, Wes, right? Because I think you can, like Corey said, you can parse it out into delusions, lies, but also what about motivational self-talk or North Star goals, right? Like a North Star goal is bullshit, is fantasy until you accomplish it, right? The whole point of a North Star goal is to set it so big that it makes people fall out of their chair. And so would that fit into Jordan Peterson's 95%? And if it does, wouldn't we want to keep it anyhow?
I think both of you are bringing up an excellent point. I wonder if there's a concept that I've been thinking about a lot the past week or so, which was okay, you're happy or you're sad, but in relation to what? you could be in physical pain, but if you're at the gym and it's in relation to you getting the body that you want, then all of a sudden you turn that sadness to happiness. So I wonder if it fits in that area. Like you are bullshitting, but in relation to what? In relation to positively, functionally bullshitting yourself of saying, hey, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to be, and I'm going to pump up my consciousness right now so that I can actually take action on it. I could totally see that. Frank, let me throw the ball over to you. What's your perspective, bro?
Thank you, man. This is a topic I'm particularly passionate about. And if you don't mind, I want to take it just one quick step back and talk about the concept of neuroplasticity, which is our ability. And it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, where you're more neuroplastic, or you're 80 years old. Studies have shown that you are neuroplastic your entire lives. What that means is that you can train your brain to have a different default pathway when you receive a piece of stimulus. For example, when you get a really terrible piece of news, how do you, by default, react? You can train your brain to operate in different ways by deepening the synaptical pathways that you typically take. So if historically you always reacted with stress and negativity, that's what you're training your brain to do. Same thing with when you're working out a new exercise or you've been playing the piano for 20 years. The muscle memory that you're able to develop there, you can also develop in your brain. So on the concept of positive self-talk, you can do the very same thing. If you train yourself throughout 20 years of your life to talk negatively, that's how you're training your brain by default to think and act. But you can flip that completely around through this concept of growth mindset, neuroplasticity, and Kaizen hit on that. So there is a lot of research-backed, peer-reviewed studies that makes this not just a hippy-dippy self-talk or positivity thing, but it's proven to be effective. That's the first thing.
Well, and Frank, sorry, let me interject there. For those of you who think that might sound so obvious to a lot of people, but I think actually it wasn't so obvious for a long period of time, because I believe in the study of psychology, they actually said your brain became quite rigid after a certain age. And Carol Dweck's book, Growth Mindset, was pretty groundbreaking in this, if anybody's interested. Sorry, Frank, to take the mic from you. Go ahead, buddy.
No worries. And Ray, you bring up a really good point, which is, what if this is true? What if this is reality? How do you operate under this growth mindset? It's all about not assigning your personal value to your current state. I might weigh 400 pounds today, but that doesn't mean I'm a terrible person. That doesn't reflect on who I am as an individual. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you need to value progress. It's not about where you are today, it's about where you could be. And so I may be 400 pounds, but guess what? I was 450 pounds 6 months ago. When you value progress, that starts to establish these positive synaptical connections in your brain that trains you to think more positively. And by doing this, you're in your body, physiologically, you're changing your stress response. You're taking this concept of stress, which is negative, it's a cortisol response, and you're shifting it to eustress, which is a different hormonal response. When you feel excited to go to a friend's party, that's eustress. When you're nervous about going into a test you haven't studied for, that's normal stress. These are two different hormones working within your body, and how you think about stimulus and stress and change can directly impact how your body behaves and reacts. And there's studies that's been done on people who feel eustress versus stress. Their cognitive abilities are different. Their ability to focus and remember and recall are different. So this is a very, very real thing. And if this is a topic you're interested in, I really recommend you look into the concept of growth mindset.
Yeah, outstanding. So you guys, this is why I love having these conversations, because it gives me additional levels of distinction. So Ray, what if we framed it as, what percentage of your thoughts are functional towards the goals that you have predetermined? Is that a better, more accurate question? Mm-hmm. So let me throw the mic back over to you, and then we're going to throw it over to Mitch. What percentage of your thoughts do you think are functional towards your goals?
Well, I think it's a battle. It's like a constant battle where, my lizard brain, again, is threat detection, fear calculus, and the important self-work that you and I have been doing on this group for the last 3 years, and the learning, right, from all these different sources, is the other 50%, right? So it's like this. So like these like fear impulses are about 50%, and it might be 75-25, but like what I want to focus on is the balancing act. Fear. A bill comes in, I don't have the money for it. It's like, they're not going to take away my house. I'm not going to be homeless. I'm not going to be a bum in the gutter or whatever. Like that's where my imagination goes, right? Like that kind of like waterfall of negative emotions. But that I have the training of like therapy and the work that we do on this group to hold myself accountable to my reality, which is like, hold on, let's think about the reality of the situation. God has brought me to this. God will bring me through this. I've never been homeless before, and this whatever's in this envelope is not likely to cause that. So it's that kind of like that battle, which I don't know what the percentage is, and I can imagine it's going to be a process for the rest of my life, where it's like a muscle I have to keep training.
Yeah. Mitch, what comes up for you when we talk about this? Well, what percentage, as we've defined it, what percentage, if you don't mind me asking, what percentage of your thoughts are functional towards your goals right now?
I would say not like a super high percentage. A lot of them are related to my day job. So I feel like I spend a lot of that time focused on those, right? And then I have a few others like fitness, right? And full honesty, I've been slacking on that lately. I'm trying to get back into the swing of that. I got sick in November and it just really threw me off. And then you know how that goes. So yeah, I would say not as much as it should be.
Yeah, Corey, because I know you're always want to talk percentages. Well, number one, to Mitch's point of he got thrown off in November, which I can completely relate to, Mitch. Thrown off in November on his gym routine because he got sick. We're now into February. What would you, if you were giving your opinion on Mitch's situation, what would you say?
I think this is the first step, right? I mean, to like I think especially any gym goer, specifically on the gym topic, we all go through kind of falling off the wagon. It's a lifestyle, right? It's hard to keep up. But the first step is knowing like, hey, I've kind of fallen off the wagon. I want to start fresh. Here's what I'm gonna, do in terms of following a plan. I think, obviously anyone who goes to the gym or kind of, or is in the middle of some kind of downturn on whatever there be, whether it's career, health, etc. I think just finding little ways to get that positivity back, right? I think there's nothing in life that it feels better than like actually like accomplishing a task. I feel like so like writing yourself a plan, going grocery shopping to buy yourself healthy foods to get that back in, going for a walk, studying, doing anything like that. I think having those little things in order to, like I said, don't overwhelm you with the fact that you haven't been to the gym in a couple of months. That's the past, right? What do you do about the present? The question is execution and action. And in order to do that, pick small little things, get you some momentum, and you'll be back in it, no problem. So I think the first step, what you're doing right now, is just admitting, hey, I've been off a little bit, I've been struggling a little bit. Now the question is like, what things can you put in place in order to get off of this one path?
Hell yeah, love
it.
Yeah,
and the scorecard comes to mind.
Small things there. Yeah, the scorecard helps a lot.
Yeah. I'm going to throw the ball over to you here in a second. You're on mute, just as a heads up. What percentage of your thoughts do you think are functional, being defined as working towards your goals? Oh, you're still on mute, bro. Yeah, I know. The Crowdcast app apparently gives a lot of people problems. You might have to refresh potentially. I'll try on my side. Yeah, I can't unmute you either. So you might have to refresh, bro. Mitch, while getting that together, anything on your mind as we bring up this topic? What's your perspective?
Sorry, which topic? Like the same thing with the
defining, right? When we initially start analyzing this, it was okay. What percentage of your thoughts are bullshit and or negative? Then it's like, well, hey, if we define it that way, then are we going to cut off a certain amount of conversation with ourselves that's like, well, shouldn't we be envisioning our future self? And isn't our future self not necessarily the real present? So isn't that a version of lying? Versus now, if we evolve the conversation to say, okay, if you're stepping into that future self and that's your North Star goal, well, what percentage of your thoughts and monologue and dialogue with other humans are actually working towards, are functionally positive towards those goals? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's interesting to kind of like set goals, not just like, this is what I want, but like, this is what I'm going to do to achieve it. Like Corey brought up, like starting with small steps, and I've done that recently, right? Like I went for a short run like a couple weeks ago. I started doing some calisthenics yesterday. I was like, I got to do this, right? Like I just got to do it. So it's like, yeah, if you kind of like get moving on that a little bit at a time, that helps. But like the question you're kind of asking is like, what percentage of your like waking life should be devoted to these goals, I guess, right? I think that it comes from like, how much do you want it and how far along are you? Up to is I hit my first big weight goal, and then I got sick, and I was just like, I kind of feel like I've accomplished something, and the drive is not as strong, and it's hard to like keep that going when you hit milestones, right?
Yeah. I have found that to be the case with if my goals are primarily self-centered versus others-centered. And I think it sounds good to entirely focus on other people, but I also don't think that's reality. I think having the proper ratio is really important. So I'd be curious what would happen for you there if you enhanced your why to incorporate not only yourself, but to make it bigger for yourself and for others. Ray, what are your thoughts on increasing your why so that it can accomplish any how, as they say?
Yeah, that's like it's that has been said in different forms many times over the centuries. I think Nietzsche's quote is a man who has a why, knows his why, can conquer any how. And I think we come back to that a lot in this group. That is why we have, our goal. Like this is part of my why, my vision board, our goals, our priorities, right? It takes time to clearly define these. It takes work. If you want to have a powerful why that motivates you and drives you, well, you're going to have to put in the work. If you want to be super ripped, you're going to have to put in the work. If you want to conquer the disease of addiction, you have to put in the work, right? So, that's what comes to mind for me. Like, it's with so many things, the way I come back to this lizard brain, and there's also a part of the way we're conditioned in society, like the way we're programmed to just sit and consume, unless we carve out our own kind of unless we carve out our own messaging where it's like that really inspires us, take the time to figure out your why. And Wes, maybe we could step up and dedicate more of these sessions to helping the lads figure out their why, their values. What is a why? What is a why, Wes?
Yeah.
A why is your
and I don't know
values,
for anybody else. Yep.
Right. And then from your values,
I got a lot of that.
from your values.
Was Ray's internet chopped up for a lot of you guys?
I got this.
Is it just it might just be my internet.
That was my best work, Wes.
All right, cool.
That was my best work, dude.
I know it was. So Ray, from what I got, I completely agree with you. I wonder how much, like, just not understanding that concept, but understanding how profound that concept is. I mean, if you think about it, and I'm sure we could all relate to this. We've all probably been in a situation where we had a history of complete inaction, and then the girl breaks up with us, or we lose the job, or the girl rejects us, or we go to the party and our buddy's making 3 times as much money as we are, whatever the thing is. And the only thing that changed was the why. And on the other side of that why, now you're going to the gym 150,000 times more than you did in the past, or now you're working double as long. Corey, what is your thought on I wonder if the only thing you have to adjust is increasing your why to a level 10? I'm not saying you, I'm just saying categorically in general.
Yeah.
And you.
That's what I like to do. I feel like, Wes, we're very similar in that way. There's nothing that gets me more motivated than envy, I think, for good or for bad. But it's something that, that's my pattern, and it's been my pattern since I knew what to do with it. And I find it effective is seeing something that someone has. And so for me personally, I have to go level 10. I can't, it's either I'm a 0 guy or I'm a 110 guy. I've always been that way. And so, for good or for bad, that's why I've tried to kind of change that pattern, that framework a little bit, and maybe focus on maybe little things, because I for sure, I'm very, very similar to the rest of you guys in terms of, you get down on yourself, you wanted to accomplish a little bit more. It's not coming as quickly as you'd hope it is. That's why you kind of change the perspective in order to focus on, as cliche as it is, focus on the journey, the work, that really, really helps. Right. And so I think, to answer your question, I think you have to turn it up to level 10. I think in order to be successful in any facet of categories, limping into something is never going to work. I think that's the worst thing you can do. Best thing you can, or other things to happen is like you try it, it doesn't make sense, and then you could write that off your list. You don't have to do it ever again, right? At least you come to that conclusion, and I think that's what's critical. Is definitely go in at a level 10 if you can.
100%, Corey, and it's like the worst thing to do is limp in there, right? Obviously, the best thing is to give it your all and win. But the second best thing would be give it your all and lose, right? Because of the man you become along the way. That's what, to give it a language that Wes likes to use, right? Like, yeah, you said it's kind of cheesy to use the expression, it's all about the journey. But like the different versions of that are like, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Like a more manly way to say that is like, it's not about the stuff you'll get, it's the man you become on the way, right? And Wes, Corey's discussion makes me think of the way we ended our last session on Friday with Phil, and where Phil was worried about this kind of repeat pattern where there's a deadline looming and he still can't summon the action within, And I think that really resonated with me and got me fired up and mad as hell, because I relate so much to that self-talk into Phil's situation. And I think that, like, doing the work to figure out your why is how to get over that inaction. Like, if you become so passionate about your why, you have to want it so bad. Like, in order to break that habit of procrastination, you just, simply put, you have to want it more than the procrastination. The wanting has to be more powerful than the procrastination. And part of harnessing that wanting is really doing the work to figure out your why. What are your values? What are your goals? What is your what is it called? When you call yourself the enthusiastic teacher, that's your avatar, right? So this kind of like avatar, goals, values, like taking the time, days, weeks, however long it takes to really understand that why. That is like that kind of like that fuel that can push you through the procrastination.
Yeah.
Sorry to hog the mic.
Yeah. No, I put it in this list. Do this. Use this app. Blah blah blah. Etc. Versus just having a 1-sentence book of like, increase your why to a level 10. I promise you, everything else will work itself out. If it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I've got a big reason. It's like, no. Pretend there's a gun to your head, or pretend there's a gun to your mother's head. And your percentage of which you are convicted of that right, will be directly correlated with your percentage of which you execute it. Because it's one thing to say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, there's a gun in my head. And then it's like, well, if there's a gun in your head, you wouldn't eat the fucking cookie. Like, there's no chance you would eat the cookie. But the problem is when you're trying to synthetically manufacture that hypothetical scenario, it is dramatically different than an actual gun being in your fucking head.
Which is like, think back to that moment. Often it's in our childhood where like you forgot time, where time didn't matter. You know, like the best movies, the best music, the best restaurants, the best bike rides, the best fitness experiences. And for Wes, for you, I'm sure you harness this in work where you get into this flow state and time doesn't matter. You're like, I could do this for the next 12 hours. What does it do with a memory like that? Like, how does he convert that to his why? Like, because I know I can't put the words to it, but Wes, don't you think that's an extremely valuable piece of like fuel, or like right that he can identify that feeling and almost even like kind of manufacture it just by like putting his memory back there, right, Wes?
Well, I wonder if there's a beautiful mosaic being put together via story, because what I hear there is not only what you just said, Ray, but also embarrassment of one's peers. They were laughing at him. I've like, and I don't know about you, Corey, but for me, that is like a level 10 instant. My hands start sweating, like just infuriating. And I like Mark Twain said, he could last a good 6 months off of a compliment. I could last 60 years off of somebody, laughing at my inadequacies. I wonder if there's a ratio there of when you toggle back and forth into being intrinsically motivated to do something, so you hit that flow state, but then in those pockets of time where you're depleted or whatever, that you then revert back to remembering the why, so that it gives you just enough jet fuel to get back into the flow state. Corey, is there an element that resonates with you?
He kind of froze up there, but I think I got the gist of what he's saying. Yeah, I mean, personally, Wes, did you finish everything? You just want to know specifically the example and how? Okay. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean that's very relatable. I mean, I don't know if it in terms of, and I don't know if this is the wrong thing to focus on, but Wes, I had the same idea. I was like, I put myself in position as these individuals laughing at me. Next thing I know, I'm after this, I'm going on another, right? Just to prove to myself. And so I don't know how healthy or unhealthy that is. That's just my why, right? And I think going back to kind of example is like, it sounds like he found his why. And I think, that's a good lesson for everybody. If you have something like that makes you feel that passionate, that strong about it, you need to cultivate that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Like, in other words, like, is it like a boogeyman, right? Is there a boogeyman that holds you back? Everything, like, what stops me from cold calling, cold emailing? I have an art gallery, and so I'm in sales. And so I'm not in a call center, bro, in India or something. But in a lot of ways, I'm not that different. I got to get like Wes says, like, the slow season is when the phone is like this, and high retail season is when the phone is like this. In other words, like, it's all in my control. Whether, like, the inputs I make determine whether I sell art. Now, to put it in a lofty way, connecting amazing artists with people who want beautiful things. To put it another way, making sales. Because I've been doing it for 20 years and I know what I'm talking about. And they might love art, but they work all day at a law firm or wherever they work, and they don't have time to go to galleries every day and research art on the internet every night. And so by coming to me, they are leapfrogging that research delta and getting the benefit of all that. Just to answer your question, the boogeyman is that they'll laugh or say no, right? When I say, will you buy this piece of art? And so that is what grips me and prevents me from picking up the phone or prevents me from sending that email. So it is this kind of public humiliation thing, or it's a version of that Wes and Corey latched onto. And Mitch, is there anything that comes to mind in terms of a boogeyman like that you have to conquer in order to get your shit done?
Yeah, I guess I struggle with like putting my finger on what it is. I guess
Mhm.
the easier thing to say is the things I have a harder time doing are like socializing,
Mm-hmm.
and like especially like approaching women. Like I have no problem dating, but like to try to like approach a woman in public would be weird for me. So like I use like dating apps and stuff like that, right? Which I
Word.
don't really like doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like I guess just like initiating social situations in general is difficult for me, and I don't really know what the blocker is. It's like a mental block. I guess it's fear. I mean, I just don't know what it's a
Yeah.
fear of.
Yeah,
It's
dude. Yeah, it's
rejection.
fear. It's
But
a like I'm gripped by 100 kinds of fear, man. And I think what Wes and Corey talking about is fear based, But I can tell you, like, because my dating days ended before the advent of apps and even online dating at all. There's no there's no emotional roller coaster like going up to a chick at a bar or that kind of like that approaching a woman, like you said, as compared to an app. There's no emotional roller coaster like it. Um, yeah, it's heart attack inducing. It's awesome.
Hey, Ray, you mentioned something that I want to expand on a little bit, which is when you're cold calling, I think a lot of people can relate to this fear of picking up the phone, calling a complete stranger and asking for their time and trying to sell them something.
Mm-hmm.
If that's your mentality when you make the call, makes complete sense. And then you started to talk about your why. You stopped focusing on the what you have to do and the how you have to do it, but you started focusing on the why. I have a portfolio of really talented artists. I have a list of potential clients, and I feel passionate about creating that connection that brings value to both of these parties. And when you take it to a higher level on what you have to do, especially when there's fear involved, do you then feel that it's a lot easier to pick up that phone and make the cold call because you're not focused on, am I going to be articulate? Are they going to think I'm wasting their time and I'm just soliciting? Or are you focused on, I'm doing this for a higher purpose and therefore my fear is a little bit more dismissed in my mind?
Dude, you nailed it. And like, I'm writing down what you said, fast and furious, because it's absolutely right. I love what I do. I choose to do this job. I'm blessed enough to choose the job that I want to do and do it. And I'm not just trying to sell somebody something. I'm creating value, and again, letting them leapfrog the process and let me do it for them. So yeah, and when I put it in those terms, yeah, I don't feel like a vampire or a leech or a burden at all. So thank you for that. Thanks for another awesome contribution, Frank.
Yeah, and Mitch, Frank is spot on. I mean, across the board, whether it's talking to women, whether it's a cold call sales, like at the end of the day, like you got a lot to offer, man. You need to think like, hey, anybody would be lucky to have me. And as you approach, when you have that self-worth, as you approach women, they know that confidence, they can see that confidence. And what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? You guys go your separate ways. On to the next one, right? I think putting a little less pressure on yourself, you're just getting to know a new individual that you've never met before. And you think of it like that, you think about, what you have to offer. And dude, you'll be fine. Like, don't even sweat it.
Yeah, and Mitch, like the fact that you're part of this group and the kind of contributions you make to our Discord and like to these meetings is proof that you're an elevated member of the species. And like, keep that in mind, bro, because there are a lot of goblins out there. And like Corey said, you're not one of them, dude. Like, you're a stud. Don't feel like you need to use this group as a kind of like a hidden charm or amulet. Like, talk about this group. Talk about like our success goals with these women. Talk about like how we focus on growing up and men acting like men. I'm telling you, man, it's not going to be a turnoff. It's going to be the opposite. What do you think, Wes?
Well, I wonder if it would be a really useful session to really operationalize this stuff, because I can relate to Mitch in a lot of ways I don't know Mitch very well. He and I actually talked a couple of days ago, but he's been on this team for quite some time. And I think he and I have the analytical disease probably down to our core. And I think Corey does as well. But I actually think if you use that to your advantage, you might not be out of the gate. Things seem like they're much more intuitive to other humans than they are to me. But then I think I have an advantage because they're not intuitive to me. I have to dissect how the watch works before I understand what time it is. Doesn't matter, right? I need to know every cog of the wheel. And so there's a delay in my progress. But then, honestly, I feel like the universe has gifted me with that disease because then you better fucking watch out because now I know how every single cog of that watch works. And I might have been putting up goose eggs for 10 years, but now you're never going to be able to beat me ever again. Right, sort of thing. Because like once it reaches that critical mass and now I understand the full spectrum, it's like now I can play the game. So I wonder if for Mitch and other guys like Mitch, et cetera, and by the way, Mitch, I was in that same cohort as well. Operationalizing things really helped. People telling me, "Oh, just be yourself, man." That didn't fucking help me. Right? It's like, well, I suck right now. Right? Like, so then dissecting it. So I created a spreadsheet, and then I created all these things. Like, okay, well, like how do I qualify myself? If I had to be rational on saying, what does the female counterpart want on the other side? A lot of people don't want to have that conversation, but it's actually pretty easy. Well, she probably wants security. That's probably the number one thing. And then there's subcategories of that, right? So whether it be money or physique or the ability to communicate or the ability to make her laugh, right? Or the ability to blah, blah, blah. Like it's not 100 things. It's not one thing. It's not 100 things though. And then, okay, well, how do you make that decision tree from there? Okay, there are these 4 subcategories or 5 subcategories, and then there's a few subcategories of that. So we've got 3 tiers of things. Okay, well, then I can scorecard that. Okay, well, if my physique's not where it should be, and if I had to be objective about it, if I have a 6-pack, it's probably not going to hurt my odds of finding a female, right? Right? Probably not. If I make $500K a year, probably not going to hurt my odds. Right? If I have proper hygiene, probably not going to hurt my odds. So we have to be careful on how much we say, oh, just be yourself, man. Well, what if you fucking suck? Right? Relative to the market. And this is why I like finance. It's like the market is the market, but let the market be your teacher as well.
Brief him on the holistic definition of success.
Yeah, I mean, basically for me, it's health, wealth, relationships, and enjoying the process.
It's a circle.
Health,
yeah, it's a circle. Enter that continuum at different times. Like me, like naturally handsome and an absolute a lady killer, right? Dude, it's objectively factual. I've killed women.
Objectively.
and whereas Wes is Wes slays it on the career side, but maybe not in terms of developing a family yet. So just hypothetically, what we're talking about is a holistic definition of success. Out there in the manosphere, I can pick up ideas from Joe Rogan and pick up ideas from David Goggins and pick up ideas even from Andrew Tate. In isolation, he probably has some things that would improve my performance. But a lot of those guys, it's not as attractive to me as Wes's holistic definition of success. You see Instagram ads where a guy rolls off a private jet with a big watch and the dress shirt is untucked under the blazer, a look that I hate. And they're just saying invest in crypto or affiliate marketing and you'll get super rich. That is not to me a holistic definition of success. So Wes, can you explain how you went deep on the other 3 categories and neglected the 4th, and what was the outcome?
Yeah, well, Ray and others have taught me this for basically my whole life, and then we'll go round robin and get everybody's final thoughts to get our butts out of here. But probably Corey has this same problem, which was and this is not a humble brag, I slept on the floor literally for 7 years because I felt like having a bed didn't matter. And it was your brain can go to that level of delusion of almost where it's self-sacrificing is part of the narrative. But then when I added a bed, I enjoyed life a lot more. And then when I added music, I feel like I discovered music like 7 years ago. When I added music, I was like, oh, like it makes my day better. And oh, if I can learn about art, or oh, if I can make my room look a little better, now I can make my own place look a little better, and so on. So I've gotten really big into interior design, etc. I mean, Corey's seen my little thing that I put on my island, with some eucalyptus and so on. So I think there's this element of like, what's it all for if you're not going to enjoy it, and then enhancing it to well, what if you made others enjoy it, dude? Or what if you helped others enjoy it? My final thought here, and we'll go around here, is when I added dance to my life, it almost got to the point of like, I don't know if I need anything else. Like it feels so good to feel good that maybe I've been running for decades into these battlefields to feel good when I'm just missing things in front of me that can make me feel good almost instantaneously and are healthy in perpetuity. Corey, let me throw it over to you because I feel like you can relate. What are your final words of wisdom here, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just experiences. I think like that's what it's about, right? And I think you coming to the conclusion that dance, I think that you've built characteristics in your personality over the course of your time here on Earth in order to, help with certain aspects of your life. And then one came in completely off the radar that's kind of helped you with utility. I think that's a part of the process. That's one of your pillars, right? And so I think just opening yourself up to potential opportunities like that, you don't have to be defined by one individual thing, whether it's wealth or, whatever, right? I think just allowing yourself to live as much as you can while you have the time is critical. And I agree with you 100%, Wes. Like sometimes I got wrapped up in the story of, tried to be, built it all myself. But that doesn't necessarily give you the utility. It's not about the story. It's about the actual process of action and execution and having an idea and taking it to completion, right? I think that's what gives you purpose. And so, that's kind of my 2 cents on the subject.
Love it. Ray, let me throw it over to you, brother. Final words of wisdom.
Stick around, man. I think you're going to make a lot of great contributions to this group, as do Kaizen, Corey, Frank, and sometimes Wes.
Frank, let me throw it over to you, brother. Final words of wisdom, my friend.
Yeah, I loved your story, Wes. Thanks for sharing, enjoying the process, or rather making the process as enjoyable as possible by, for example, buying a bed. That's something I have to remind myself of. Something that I want to do is bring it.
Now I've got pretty sick.
Nice. I use a 8 Sleep mattress. Love it.
No,
I'm going to talk more about it. I want to bring it full circle back to how we started today, which is talking about this concept of positive self-talk and neuroplasticity. I think that applies also to this idea of enjoying the process, because the process sometimes sucks. Sometimes it's hard and stressful and challenging, and sometimes you can't buy a bed and make it more enjoyable. Sometimes you have to grind through it. And you can essentially trick your brain during those moments to actually truly enjoy it. If you look for the most difficult, challenging things in your life, and rather than view them as intimidating and scary and something you don't want to do, and you view it as a challenge and an opportunity to say, I added another notch to my belt. I did something incredibly hard. It sucked, but I embraced that suck. And I enjoyed the process even though it sucked. And I think that's where that power really comes.
Love it. Outstanding. Mitch, let me throw it over to you, brother. Final words of wisdom, my friend.
I just like what Frank just said about embracing the suck. I really like to use the phrase eager to suffer. I need to work on being a little more eager to suffer lately.
Hell yeah. Love it. Those last 2 comments might not help my problem. So I need to get the other side of it. Dude, if I'm doing a workout, I'm like, oh, if I lose a foot, this is going to be fucking awesome. It'll make me even more motivated. So, all right, dude. I love you guys. Thanks for all the contribution. I know we jumped around.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So much.